And as a reminder as well, today's section is part of the series of the book sharing forum on the book I'm Not a Dependent of the Buddha. As shown, the real product is on our desk. And then the series itself will consist of 5 independent monthly sessions, and each one will cover one chapter in the book. So talking about the book, I'm Not the Dependent of the Buddha, it is actually the latest publication by Venerable Master Hsing Yun. And as you might have known, Venerable Master Hsing Yun is the founder of the Fo Guangshan Monastery and Humanistic Buddhism. And it has been 81 years since he became monastic at 12. So this book is the very first publication after he recovered from his sickness. And in the book, he shares his growth, path, vows, and propagation of Dharma. The book title, Being Dependent on Buddha, means to earn a living by relying on Buddhism. And right now, we're covering chapter 1, where Venerable Master introduces his thoughts on why he made the vow to not dependent on Buddhism, but instead being a person that gives to others, and also share what he has done to practice Buddhism depends on me since his childhood. So when I read chapter 1, I was very amazed and moved by how determined and selfless Venerable Master was, however desperate the situation is. However, I'm also very confused because Venerable Master is a monk of really high respect and who has practiced the Buddhism for more than 18 years, and that's why he can do these amazing things. But I'm just a regular person living in a regular life, in a regular place. How can I, or how does his life story really relate to mine, and more if I'm not a Buddhist? And also, how can I learn from his experience and not just knowing, but really applying them to make my life really better? So I see some of you nodding your head and laughing, so I bet I'm not alone here. So today, to resolve this mystery, we are very pleased and honored to have our panelists here today. So please have your palms ready to welcome our guest, Katy, the President of BLIA-YAD chapter, and also the engineer manager in the Silicon Valley, and Selene, our SFYAD President, and also a Buddhist designer. And we also have our active member Anna today, and she is also an engineer in the Silicon Valley. And of course, every friends coming here today to our forums, welcome. The mystery is just not just wonder. No. If you don't mind, can we switch the seat, please? So without further ado, let's jump to the very first. Excerpt. So this is an excerpt from the passage. I will always ponder, I can't be a freeloader all the time. I should repay the kindness of Buddhism and contribute to it. This is my mindset since my youth. I expect myself to be a person of gratitude. Hence, I make a vow to give to others instead of wishing or expecting others to give to me. So, after reading this, I actually have a question here. So, do you, any of you, our guests here, have any similar experience that you do to repay the gratitude you receive? Or have you just taken it for granted? Or if you know you could do it differently, what would you do? So, who wanna share first?
You can choose.
All right, let's start by the beginning. 了。
I'm pretty sure that everyone can hear me now. And you might have noticed this is the first time I sit in the front instead of like sitting like at the other side of the table. So I will try my best to share my experience. I think this chapter is really inspiring for me. And I think like it reminds me of some experience that I observed over the time and also my experience in the past. Like I know most of people here are young professionals. Like I don't know whether you can relate it or not. Like at the beginning of our career, like most of people run into different type of career issues. Several years back, I was also in a similar situation. I struggled a lot, and I was trying to do a lot of things to make some change, and eventually I realized that I couldn't find a solution, so I quit. But I mean, I still think it's a best decision at the moment, but I'm always trying to look for an alternative way. How do we deal with our problems? I think from this chapter, what I learned is, first of all, the gratitude here. Like sometimes when we have a problem that we can't find a solution, like it happens a lot. If there's only one thing that we can hold on to, it's probably gratitude, because it helps us get out of the negative thinking and help us just notice the positive things, and then help us discover if there's some potential opportunities or potential people that can help us make some change to our situation. The other thing I'm really, really inspired by this chapter is, I know Venerable Master Hsing Yun, he focused a lot on learning and growing, regardless of the external environment. I think like problems, like at almost every stage of our life, we'll have different concerns and problems, and probably being very grateful and focus more on learnings and growings without the external dependencies. It can help save us a lot of energy and trouble. Yeah, that's what I want to share on this one.
So just pass down the microphone, right? For this particular question, actually, I do have some experience I want to share. So throughout my career, I think also the same thing as Anna, something related to career, right? Throughout the career, I started with a startup company. So startup company, you know, in Silicon Valley, startup company has a long working hours. That you work almost like 12 hours plus a day. Even during weekends, sometimes you have to work too, right? And what you're trying to do is make sure that you do your job right. You pretty much do everything small, especially in a smaller company. You are not only the developer, you are customer support, you are shipping department, you are sales, you are marketing, right? You are janitor in the company. You do everything, seriously. So how do you get through that kind of environment and not really feeling like resentment in your life? Thinking that, why am I doing this all the time? So I think I'm fortunate enough in that early stage, I actually read some of Master's book and some of Buddhism texts. So like Anna, gratitude is something that actually changed the way I look at things. For example, we're not getting paid, right? Instead of thinking that I should get paid because I work this much, I changed my mind to think about, hey, people are paying me to learn stuff. It's an educational opportunity. Why not? Right? I should be happy about it. Whatever I learn at this moment will become my skill set in the future. And the best thing is, hey, I'm getting money out of that, right? Free education, paid education to me. So with that kind of thought, it actually turned around a lot of thinking and difficult times I had to go through throughout my career. So it keeps encouraging me in every stage of my life, right? So I'm not sure if you guys feel the same thing, right? If you change your mind a little bit, everything changes. The other very deep impression I have is during my short-term monastery retreat, right? So some of you probably have already gone through that. I think Selene went there too, right? And Chen, did you go? Oh, no? Okay. Oh, Chen, you went, right? Gina, did you went? Okay, right? So I learned simple life actually make you think about gratitude more versus busy life. So we are so busy with everything around us, right? When I joined the short-term monastery retreat, what I found out is even as simple as just walking, breathing, eating, you really appreciate people around you to help you around and guard whatever will come to you so that you can have a peace of mind to do what you are coming here for. And at that moment, I suddenly realized there are so many things we take in granted in our life. We don't show any gratitude or didn't even show appreciation for that. Like maybe my mom cooking, I would naturally think, oh, that's my mom, right? She should cook for me. She should, right? Oh, someone is giving me a water because I go to a shop. Yeah, she should give me a water, or he should give me a water because I am a customer. But we because of all those things around us, we lost that very essence of being grateful of what other people can do for you. And I think that really changed the way I look at things too, through that short-term monastery retreat. So I hope that everyone also have the opportunity to join that too. That's it.
You guys said everything I want to say. Just kidding. This paragraph, so this is a very short excerpt, but before and after it, Master Hsing Yun also shared a little bit about how he was really poor, from a poor family, and there wasn't much stuff, but he really tried very hard to contribute, even though he's a kid, to his family in any simple way as possible. And that reminded me when I was a kid. I'm not as poor as compared to what Venerable Master Hsing Yun went through, but my family wasn't that well off too. And there were instances where my mom will be holding the three of us, the kids. We were pretty young, and then she will be like, I don't have money. What can I do? And then when I was really a kid at that time, I told my mom, don't worry, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to give you 100% of my salary. Of course, I'm not doing that right now because I won't be able to survive in the Bay Area. But actually, that when I saw Venerable Master Hsing Yun's words, it actually reminded me of that instance, of that intention of I really want to help my mom. I really want to help my family, help these people that are actually giving me a lot of things that I cannot replace, like a family, or giving me opportunity, encouraging me to actually take up art and then eventually become a designer. So these are things that if I don't have my mom encouraging me, I wouldn't be here today. But growing up, I have no ability to help her because I can't bring back money like she can yet at that time. But I can help her read English letters, and then I can help her around at home. I can help her with, I don't cook very well, so I don't cook, but then but I help with cutting stuff at home. So these are little things that we can do, and I think at every single phase of our lives, there will always be something we can do. The things that I can do then and now is different already, but then when I see opportunities that I can be feeling grateful for, I will always take the opportunity to see what can I do more, what can I help, how can I help this person. And later on I developed this mindset, which after meeting this professor back at Ohio State, he was the one that actually brought me to Ohio State. And I remember he was helping me so much, and I went going through my program. And one day I just asked him, is there anything I can do to help you? Like, you know, because I grew up with that mindset, like, I should help you, right, in some ways. And he just said that, no, like, just pay it forward. And like, there will be times, you know, in your life where you will be in the same position as I am, and you will meet someone that is in the same position as you are today. And then when you meet someone like that, help them. And then from there, I thank my professor for giving me this mindset of paying it forward, which is there is so many like people that have helped us so much in our life, and we just cannot repay them directly. And therefore, the only way is to don't actually waste the help that they have given to you by actually multiplying this thing that you have actually taken and giving it to somebody else in like many folds. And this is in fact the best way that you can repay someone. And I see that Venerable Master Hsing Yun just had this mindset even when he was a kid, and then he just leveled up his like mindset of like paying it forward, and then even like taking on Buddhism on himself as a way to pay it forward, and never forget the feeling of gratitude. And I think one thing that I would like to cultivate more is this feeling of gratitude as a habit. So it's easy for us to get used to everything that is around us. Like one really funny example is that, you know, at LinkedIn we have free food, and even the toilet bowl is heated. And I was very like shocked when I first sat on it, and and then I really felt like, oh my god, why is the seat heated? I've never had this in my life before. And then this is something now I no longer like, you know, scream like, oh my god, yeah, I no longer, because I got used to it. And there's free food, and I no longer think about, oh my god, I have free food every day. I just think about like, why is the food like not so good today, right? Like you will start thinking because you just get used to it. And how can I continuously cultivate this like, okay, don't take things for granted all the time. And then so this is something that I would like to learn from Venerable Master Hsing Yun, to constantly cultivate this habit of gratitude.
Thank you. So this really inspired me of solutions to getting rid of being bored, as this is really inevitable in the daily chores, is to really taking taking things as an opportunity and be grateful to it. And therefore you will cherish and be happy of what you are having, and this by continuing doing so, you will cultivate a habit and make it become an organic loop, and just get like being happier and happier in the future. And that said, as Selene mentioned, this is actually a daily cultivation. Venerable Master also mentioned cultivations are in very many different ways, and therefore he mentioned in the paragraph that, as the saying goes, the Dharma is equal and without high and low. Because many do not understand the cultivation that is within daily life, Buddhism became really separated from the society. So my question then is, how do you guys understand cultivation in Chinese Xuxing? And can you share your daily experience of how you do to practice cultivation? Let's start with Selene.
Okay, so when I think about cultivation, I used to think about it as like, I need to go chanting, I need to sit down and meditate. And then after I read this part, it just reminds me of the short-term monastic retreat. There's a lot of insight, so definitely recommend everyone to go. So during the short-term monastic retreat, the most recent one, there's a lot of rules within the retreat, right? And at the beginning, you're just not used to it, because you just need to like follow these things that you don't usually do, like a certain way to walk, a certain way to eat, a certain way to sit. But with these rules implemented, it makes me hyper aware about my actions. Like I will be like, am I walking correctly? Am I sitting correctly? Am I like eating correctly without like having chopstick sounds in the bowl? Right? This like hyper attention on my bowl and my chopsticks, like all of a sudden, like by day 4 or day 3, I just had this realization while I was actually picking up, some rice and putting it in my mouth. I just realized that this is what cultivation means. Like, not the rules, but the hyper awareness about your actions at every single point in time, including your mindset. And at that point in time, I just like, oh, right, it's not sitting meditation only or chanting only. It's like every single time when I'm sitting here, am I able to be mindful? Am I able to correct my actions instead and not like react according to what's happening internal inside me? And therefore, I just felt really like motivated and tried really hard after the monastic retreat to really try to add more cultivation in my daily life. So I started off with a sitting meditation every day, and in addition to that, I will go through my day constantly reflecting, starting off with my interactions with people. So I would be maybe interacting with my PM, product manager, by the way, interacting with my colleague, and I would be suddenly noticing that this person is really good at expressing herself in a not like aggressive way. Like, I should learn that. And then the other person will be saying things really aggressively. I'm like, I shouldn't do that. Yeah. And then you will just start seeing a lot of these things because you just like how in the monastic retreat you add rules. Like I use this as a cultivation or practice on myself. So then I start like noticing all of these things and then reflecting upon my speech more in my interaction with people. And of course I'm not perfect at all. So therefore I have to do a lot of like post-event or post-activity reflection. And this is how like I can integrate cultivation within my daily life. And why sitting meditation still matters is because if you think about it, like sitting meditation is just like going to the gym, whereas the daily interactions are actually carrying stuff randomly in a day, right? If you aren't actually active in the gym, then you will break your back when you try to carry stuff, right? That happens to me, by the way, so I can cite this example. I don't go to the gym often. But the sitting meditation, I think it's the same with your mind because you put your mind through the mind gym to be aware, and then on the daily life, you actually can apply that skill set of pulling yourself and be mindful. So that's why cultivation is actually both the traditional one and also within the daily one. And I think it's extremely important for us if we really want to be a better person every single day and every single moment.
So talking about the cultivation, I do have a realization this morning. Not really, but so what I did this morning is I have a cup of tea in my backyard, right? People might think that that's a very normal thing. But when I was drinking that cup of tea, I think the first thing I think about is, do I really trying to feel how it tastes like, right? Is it a red tea? Is it a black tea? Is it Chinese tea? How's the temperature? What do I care about this tea? And as I'm drinking it, I put my mind to, I hope that every being in the universe can enjoy this cup of tea. So that's how I start my daily practice. Now, what I do usually during the day is when I do something, no one's perfect. You lose track sometimes. But there will be times where I will pull myself back and ask myself, what are you doing right now, right? If you really pay attention to something, why do I pay attention to this? What is the differences, right? What if this is done in a different way? what would the outcome be? So I constantly asking myself all those questions. Well, in like President said, to be mindful of what you're doing, and there are times where Buddhism actually helped me a lot in this term. Like Venerable Hsing Yun used a lot of Buddhist, I would not say terminology, but Buddha's teaching in his life. He applies it into his life as well. So I'm trying to do the same thing too. Now, one example I can give to you is one day I had this discussion with an architect about something we had to change in the code, right? And I was trying to build a virtual machine for my team. So thinking, okay, I started with a good intention, right? If I build this template, everyone can use it. I don't need to waste other people's time. So as I built with the first prototype, and I sent it out, I said, hey, guys, you guys can use it now. The architect emailed me back and said, I think we missed this. So I said, okay, let me add it in. So I start adding it in. I send a second prototype out. The architect comes back and said, by the way, we still need this and that, right? So I said, oh my gosh, you are being picky on me, right? I said, okay, let me take care of that. Now, while I'm fixing it, the architect suddenly sent an email to the entire group saying, hey, I add all those in, now it's ready. Now, I think a lot of people probably have similar experiences, thinking like, hey, I'm doing this, why are you kind of interject and then trying to build it yourself? But while I was feeling unhappy, I kind of asked the same question again. Why are you unhappy about this? What is the ultimate goal? Who is the beneficiary on this outcome of this action? So the ultimate goal is all engineers will get the up-to-date image to work with, right? That's a happy ending. So why do I so care about who actually does the work? Yeah, maybe I've been doing this several times, but I'm actually learning things as well, right? So I should be appreciative of what this architect is doing, because there's a lesson I have to learn about myself too. So, a lot of time in human interactions, you actually learn a lot of things from others. When you talk to them, like Selene said, she talked to different people. Hey, these are the person, these are the things I can work with. I remember one of the. Am I talking too long? No. Okay. So I remember one of the founder. Once I was looking at the calendar, one of the founder of my company, in that calendar they put down some of the wording of what the actions the founder has done. So one of the things I saw is the founder said, if I see someone I do not like, I will approach them and learn from them. That strikes me. If you see someone you don't like, you sometimes just run away from them. Better do not even interact with them. But what he's trying to say is, I will try to get close to them and learn from them because he wants to know why I do not like this person. What is the problem here? So instead of running away from problem, you want to solve the problem. So I think this is what Buddhism is about. In our everyday life, Buddha's teaching is not so far away from us. It's something that we can apply every day.
Well, I heard a lot of gems, and I really miss my notebook. So, what I heard, we already mentioned that gratitude. I definitely think that practicing gratitude every day is a type of cultivation. I also heard a lot from what you guys shared, like being mindful of a lot of things happening in our life and a lot of actions we do and a lot of thought that we had on a daily basis. And the other thing I heard, I'm trying to summarize, I can't remember it. The other thing I heard is the interpersonal communication or interaction. It's like sometimes we have good time with people, sometimes we don't. And every moment, either it's a good or bad experience, we always can learn something, or either about others or about ourselves. And this is also a type of cultivation. And you guys basically covered everything. There's one experience I want to share, a recent experience I had on this topic. I remember that when I was in Sambo Academy, that Venerable Miao Zhong always said that
Buddha is not only the statue that we bow to or we pray for our wishes to come true. It is also, he also lives inside everyone and lives inside everyone's heart. And like a few weeks back, I visited Xilai Temple in Los Angeles. So I have a habit to like sit in front of the Buddha statue and talk to him by myself, very quietly and for a long time. And that day, when I realized that I'm about to leave, I feel a little bit sad because I can no longer talk to Buddha. And then, surprisingly, when I walk out of the main shrine, I realized that I didn't have a sense of loss that I anticipated when I was inside. And my heart is actually very warm and very peaceful. I don't know how many of you have similar experience. And at that moment I was like, oh, Buddha does live inside inside us, live inside our heart. So I can basically carry him everywhere. So then I noticed a few small changes happen in my life in the following days. For example, like I sometimes stay up very late at night. And the second day I will look very tired and sleepy. And those days like after I come back from the temple, when it's around like 9 p.m., I will remind myself that, okay, it's time to wrap up. It's time to get ready and go to bed. And I was able to do that because I had a mental image of the Buddha that inside my heart is staying up the whole night with me and feeling very tired and sleepy. I was like, okay, I cannot live with that image. Like, I can stay up all night, but I cannot let Buddha to stay up all night with me. So, okay, then my sleeping habit become very good during those days. And then another experience is like, when I thought about a lot of things that I usually complain about in my life, and sometimes just my mind would like flooded with negative thinkings or emotions. And then at some point, like I say, okay, wait. Like, do you really want to offer Buddha with all these negative emotions and thinking? Or everyone, like you see, offers Buddha with fruits, flowers, and chanting? It was like, okay, no. At that moment, just decide immediately I should stop. If I cannot stop thinking about the negative things, probably I should just stop thinking at all, and then go to bed. So there's a lot of things like that happened. Even in my interaction with other people, like when people skip the line and like walk in front of me and try to get the coffee, and I have to wait 5 more minutes, like I'm thinking, okay, stop for a moment, no anger. Don't offer Buddha with anger. So it's like, I'm not saying that we should not do anything or say anything when like other people does something wrong. It's like we should not act on anger. And if you're still wondering how should we do cultivation in our daily life, I would say like if you remember that Buddha is actually inside our heart, and he's with us like every moment wherever we go. Think about that, and that will probably change how you think and what you say and what you do within a second.
Exactly. I feel like after hearing what you guys said, cultivation is not just chanting the traditional way, but also really accessible to our daily life. For example, every single moment that you're being mindful and to really have to reflect yourself inside, reflect the relationship you with yourself, with your Buddha in heart, and with the relation with the people around you is cultivations. And cultivation is actually a process. You can't really have it overnight. And therefore, Venerable Master Hsing Yun also mentioned something, owning everything by having nothing. So this is very, I got very confused when I read it. So I invited everyone to look at this together. I always talked about the concept of owning everything by having nothing. Having nothing, emptiness, does not mean nothingness. If you understand this, as long as you have the resolve, whatever is inside, nothing can be boundless and immeasurable. Of course, I'm not understanding it, so I invited our guest here. Can you provide your understanding of the phrase owning everything by having nothing? And can you share some examples of it? So, how about starting from Anna again?
When I read about this paragraph, I feel like it's so deep and so wise.
Actually, several times trying to understand what it means. And here I would just provide my own understanding, I think.
I think this is, I feel very related to this question. A lot of times we feel like we don't own enough. Like we don't own enough to get what we want. What I heard from people is that we don't own enough, we don't have enough experience to get the job that we want. We don't have enough money to start a new business or to start a new education program. And we don't have enough time to help others because we're busy helping ourselves. So a lot of time we look at things that we own and then decide we're not going to do something because we don't have enough at that time. And then I'm looking at this question and thinking, if I can figure this out, then basically I can have everything I want.
But this is a hard question. I think an easier version will be, how can we go from having nothing to having at least something?
I think one example I have in mind is my mom and their generations. Because I noticed that my mom's generation, a lot of people don't have a habit of buying. For example, my mom liked small decorations around the house, but it was like 3 kids to raise. It doesn't quite make sense to have to spend a lot of money on small things like that. So she would just make things by herself. She will make the cell phone holders out of newspapers or magazines and make it really pretty. And she will make handbags out of the old jeans or clothing. I have no idea how to make that. So when I think about the habit of buying, it's basically using what you own, which is the money, to trade for what you want. So you need to first own something. And with that mindset, it's not a solution to getting from nothing to something. It's only when you notice the things that are trivial or usually neglected by other people, and sometimes it's not even owned by you, and recognize the value behind them, and then know how to use them and turn them into something useful and something that's related to what you want.
And this requires a lot of wisdom. I'm still learning. And going back to the magic question of how do you turn having nothing to having everything. So I'm a math person, and I studied mathematics and statistics for many years. A common knowledge that we have is that the area inside a circle is the constant pi times radius squared, right? It's a finite number. But the area outside the circle is an infinite number. So when we focus too much on what we own, and we are basically drawing a circle around us and trying to differentiate what's ours and what's not ours. But when we remove the circle in our mind, that's a moment when everything outside becomes available. And that's when the infinite resource becomes available to us. So I don't have a practical way to say how can we do things step by step to get from nothing to everything. But this is the inspiration I got from my early education of mathematics. It's basically when you remove the concept of what's mine and like remove the concept of self, then you can see things that you don't usually notice.
So Venerable Hsing Yun actually in his article talk about how he builds the schools, how he builds everything, even for Guangshan, out of nothing, right? Think of this room. You know, every time when I see, say, YAD, you know, having events, that actually moved me a lot. Now, without people here, this is just an empty room, right? Nothing to start with. But only if someone put an effort saying, let's do something. And that's when you gather people. And then when an action leads to the next action, and that results in this forum, this panel. That is nothing. I mean, having everything from nothing. So I truly believe that in the nothingness, it's not really emptiness, you have an infinite opportunity. Because you can do everything. Like if I give myself a blank paper, I can draw my wall on it. That is my imagination, that is what I own. But if I don't even try to pick up the pencil and draw it, I got nothing. I guess every day in what I'm doing, what I'm driving down the street, I sometimes think about this, right? If we don't have a country, a government, to maintain an environment for us, to make sure that everyone can share the same resources, I cannot be driving on the road safely. I don't own the road. Everyone else owns the road. But I think one thing is, owning everything from nothing is, everyone has to take that responsibility to own it. So once you take on that responsibility, you own everything, even though they don't physically own by you. And it's just like, you know, doing a lot of things around our life. It's all coming from our own motivation, right? If I think that I can do something, you transfer that into an action, it becomes real. It's no longer just an imagination, right? Even if we're hosting events, right? In some of the Dharma function, I think you guys have seen, right? During Dharma function, we decorate everything up, looks so beautiful. The next day, oh my gosh, everything is down, right? You cannot even imagine how it was before. So I think if we open our mind up, you can do everything in your life as long as you believe yourself can do it. And I think that's one of the things that Venerable Hsing Yun is trying to say. Buddhism depends on me because I'm the only one, not like me, right? Everyone here. If everyone shoulders that responsibility, say, I can do something for Buddhism, I can do something to change this world. Together we can do it. One of the experiments I've seen when I attended the North Fellowship Conference, I think Stanley was there too. They showed a video of the swing, right? So they have several swings. So the swing were like running. How many swings were there? Like 20, 24 or something? Do you remember? 24, 48? About 24. So they have the swing started in different time. So all the swing like right, using like a mass on the panel. And as the time goes, like several minutes pass, some of the swings naturally, resonate themselves with others. And then probably after 10 minutes, all the swings were swinging in the same direction. That is amazing. So what does that say? That means, we can, if I just be myself and do something, I can touch this person. And this person can touch the other, like paying forward, right? Your action touches each other. So you resonate, you can resonate others, and together we can make a difference. In math, we can also make a difference, right? Remove that circle. We need to remove that circle and make a difference. I mean, that's how I understand, owning everything from nothing.
Thank you, Anna and Katy. It's always difficult to be the last person after this.
You're lucky one.
But I think, to me, when I first read this, from nothingness to emptiness, from nothing to owning everything, right? So when I first read that, the first thing that really comes to my mind is actually the concept of potential. So, and the mindset of actually potential. So what does that mean is that if you think about, if we want to learn something, like let's say we had the drum class just earlier, and if we actually come in thinking that we know how to play drums, then will we be able to learn the drum the way the teacher wants us to learn? It would be really difficult because we are insistent on our own way, and we won't have the ability to accept this new way that the teacher is teaching. Similarly to your example, Katy's example of like the Dharma service that has a decoration, if we insist on not taking down the decoration, then there is no ability for us to put up new decoration. So this just translates to this ability to always go back to nothing, so that we can expand the potential to infinity, to what Anna was saying here, using the circle as an analogy. You, at any point in time, yes, there may be a circle, but if you go back to infinity again before you start, then you will have so much better, a bigger circle to draw. So this is my first thing that I thought about. And then the second thing was learning from Venerable Master Hsing Yun is his vows that he actually take upon himself. So it reminded me when I first came to Sambal Temple, and I was experiencing really a lot of very great people here. Most importantly, I was looking for a job, and I don't have a place to stay. And there's a very kind Shijie at the temple, and we talked, and then I shared my situation, and then she's like, you know what? Come and stay at my place, and only pay rent when you find a job. And I'm like, what? I don't even know you, and you offer this for me. And I felt so grateful. And at the same time, I just feel like what can I do to repay this person, right? And then again, like there is nothing much that I can do. I can help around at home, but that's about it. So since I met her at the temple, then I felt like I have to, return, pay forward to the temple. And then later I managed to find a job, right? I also felt like my mom was actually praying really hard for me all the way from Australia to Buddha and say that please get my daughter to find a job soon, right? And then all of these people are like helping around me. So I feel really, really grateful to Buddha, because that is the common point, like with all of these things that's happening to me. And I kneel down in front of the Buddha at the main shrine, and then I said, my usual thing, as you guys could have guessed, what can I do to repay you? And at that point in time, then a conversation with my professor came out in my mind, just pay it forward, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, yes. Then I asked, give me an opportunity to repay you in any way. That was my ask and my vow to do my best in any way that I can to this temple, which is the place that I felt a belonging to and met many people. And then, time fast forward, I'm the president of SFYAD, and then there's many things that come my way, but I always take them as an opportunity to say that, yes, why not? Why not take on those responsibilities? Why not take on those projects, right? And interestingly, by saying yes more, I learned a lot more than I could have imagined. I never knew how to set up a musical. I never knew how to set up a website. I don't know. I'm a designer, but I'm a UX designer, so I don't do posters. I know how to do posters now. And I know how to run a meeting. I know how to, conduct like book clubs, facilitate workshops. oh my God, like I never knew that I had all of these potential to actually build all of these abilities. And that is only because I said yes to a lot of projects, right? And then today I can finally, I even learned how to make a podcast. Wow, who knew? So what again? Like going back to this, like this original vow, because the way that this vow started off was actually doesn't have a very clear circle, right? Because there is no clear circle, the scope. It's so big. The scope is so big. It started from Sambal Temple, and then now it's back to Fo Guang to the HQ headquarters and everything. But I can only felt so much better because I felt like I continuously grow because there is no limit. There is no circle that is around me. There's no circle around me that is actually bounding me. And I think that is the main thing about what I get away when it says to, from nothing to everything, you define, or your vows define what everything means. And it could be, infinite.
Also, I kept two things in mind. The first thing is to have a great mindset of gratitude, being grateful for everything around me. And the second thing is, the second mindset is to have an open mind. So you remove the circle around you, so to really feel the boundlessness. And also another step is another thing to keep in mind is to really take into actions. Only when you take the first step will you achieve and reach out to the infinity. So let's move on to our very last questions, which is I think is very threatening to the entire chapter. That is about dependent on the Buddha. So Venerable Master explained being dependent on Buddha means to earn a living by relying on Buddhism. So the phrase Buddhism depends on me has always been a bright line in my heart. It recharges me and it even illuminates and increases my confidence. So I was very moved by this. And I also wonder how can everyone up here can really practice Buddhism depend on me. So how about start from the middle?
Now it's my turn now. Actually, I heard Buddhism depends on me, this phrase, several years back. I think it was one of the themes for the youth conference. Am I correct? Like they were, I think in Malaysia or something, right? Or right? So when I heard that phrase the first time, I don't want to lie, but when I heard it the first time, I feel I'm invincible. Seriously. I feel like, yes, I can do something. And it depends on me. I'm the one who can make a difference. Seriously. I mean, that kind of made me feel like I'm invincible. I can do anything I want. Well, not really anything you want, right? But help out to let people know how good Buddhism is. And until today, I still deeply believe that, Buddhism depends on me. Not me, but me as, me, all the me's. So how do I actually take it? Like it's the question is how do I understand it and practice this? So like Selene, right? I have to take on some more responsibility in the original chapter. I have to learn a lot of stuff which I did not know how to do in the past. The interesting thing is, when you start making that vow, yes, I want to try to make a difference, things will come at you. Even you think that, I try to run away from that. It will not let you run away. But once you accept it, you will discover a wonderland. How much I can learn out of it, right? I learned all kinds of stuff, all my skill sets, because of the activity in temple. And that helped me in my work too. Helped me to organize meeting, how to talk to people, how to interact with others, conducting meetings, doing things, planning events, designing poster. Yes, I've done that. Right, designing poster, and I'm utilizing the same skill at work, not because engineering needs that, because I'm planning events for my direct reports, like group meetings. So I'm designing report, like New Year events for the entire campus. And so people say, oh, we need this. I say, I can do it. So it actually become part of my life, believe it or not, right? Now this has nothing to do saying Buddhism depends on me. I'm saying that when you start making vows, you learn skills, and those skills become part of you. And the way how I look at how Buddhism depends on me is if I, as an individual, not really trying, but practice or cultivate myself to be a Buddhist. I'm not ashamed when I go out. I will tell people I am a Buddhist. I will not run away and say, hiding my identity. No, I will say I'm a Buddhist. I'm a vegetarian. The thing I get back is more trust and respect, right? The trust on your ability to do things. In my meeting, in my one-on-one, I talk to them about Buddha's teaching. Not saying Buddha say this, no. But I incorporate that into things I think will help them as a suggestion. I think they take it well. They think that, yeah, I think this makes sense. But not like involving like religion scholars saying that this is a Buddhism, you have to believe in Buddhism. No. I think simply by incorporating Buddha's teaching in your daily life and apply that, help others. That is how you demonstrate Buddhism depends on me. Because when people give you respect and trust on what you as an individual, you're building that bridge between others, right? And I even have like Christian friends. We have the long talk about different religion aspects, the way how she look at things, the way how I look at things. It's a peaceful talk. We don't end up like hitting each other, biting each other. But I think from there, she understands what Buddhism is about, right? Then she will not oppose to the events I'm describing, right? She will be interested to know, so what are you guys doing next time? And the other thing that I constantly think about is how do I make sure that the benefit of Buddha's teaching get into people around me, right? Thinking about what kind of event can I plan to help others. I think a lot of you here actually participate in a lot of events. That helps, right? That helps. And even if I can just inspire a little bit, even just planting a spark, a seed, as simple as that you get a glance of what we're trying to do, I think that is planting a seed in your mind. And one day, they will come in, right? I'm not coming, but I'm saying is they will benefit from Buddha's teaching. So I'm a true believer on if I do not do anything, Buddhism will do. Not in that sense, but it's our responsibility, right? Thank you.
How to practice Buddhism depends on me. I think first of all, I would say proactively seeking knowledge about Buddha's teaching. Because only when we know what Buddhism is about, and only when we know what Buddha's teaching is about, then we can apply it to our life. And then we know what are the things that we should not do, and why we should not do this. Like what's the consequence, and what's the reason. So definitely every time I went to Buddhism-related talk or seminars, either from the temple or some other resource, I always feel like I'm deeply inspired. And it also helped me look at things in my life in a very different and much broader perspective. And I am definitely on the lookout for more opportunities outside the temple. Like either different courses or seminars or talks, or like reading club, or even I'm wondering if we have a lot of like recordings about from the past talks, or some more online resource that can be easily accessible for people who come to the temple, and also for people who are curious about Buddhism. Like not yet come, but they might be curious.
So the other thing I think is, to practice Buddhism depend on us is to take on an active role in the Buddhism community. I think I need to reflect on this a little bit. Okay. So one simple example that I didn't do well in the past is by giving suggestions and constructive feedbacks. Sometimes we come to an event and we enjoy most part of it, and we might identify or find something for some room for improvement. I think taking on active roles simply mean giving your thoughts or giving your suggestions to the organizer so that they can make it better next time. And taking on an inactive role would be something like leave quietly and decide, okay, never come back again. So this is some tiny things that I think is related to how we can take on an active role, even when you don't have time to spend maybe a whole day or the whole weekend here. It's like when you have the opportunity, give more active and feedback there. The other thing I didn't do well enough is simply participate more and contribute more time to the community. I need to reflect on it a lot. I know that both Selene and Katy, you guys, know a lot of opportunities that people can take on more active roles, and hopefully after a while I can come more open. I think the third thing I can think of is outside the Buddhism community, because I always feel like both individuals and Buddhism communities, as long as we live in this society, we have a bigger responsibility here. It covers, we need to practice Buddha's teaching in our daily life for our own benefit, and also sometimes just help others without framing as Buddha said this. And I also cover things like just reaching out to people and know what's other people are going through, and also really relating to them and trying to help when we have opportunities. I think this is something everyone should keep in mind, I guess, whether we are Buddhist or not.
Thanks, Katy and Anna. I'm still the last one for some reason. Again, but I'd like to actually say that Anna came a long way, and she actually got to know SFYAD about 2 years ago. But it took her a pretty long time, and only just this year that she participated in the Sambal Academy, and then even took the 5 precepts in May, just this year. And then she's also an active participant of our Friday book club. And today she's sitting in front here and sharing her experience with everyone. So good job, Anna. I think you actually came a long way. I know you want to keep your potential big, but just want to also highlight the efforts and all of the contributions that you have actually given. So I think when it comes to what does the Buddhism depends on me means, just think back about the whole book. A general takeaway that I picture in my mind was this different levels of kind of contribution to society. And I would think that the first level is a level that we hopefully shouldn't practice, which is, you might receive somebody's help, but you took it for granted and you did nothing about it, right? And then the second level would be a more direct one, which is, you help me, I help you, right? Direct stuff. And then the third level is the paid forward concept that I brought up. But Venerable Master Hsing Yun already is at level 3, when he's a kid. So when he through his years of becoming a monk. And then as he was growing up and learning from many teachers, he developed the level 4, which is thinking that he has this gratitude towards Buddhism, right? And he starts seeing that, okay, I have to actually repay Buddhism by paying this, but not paying forward actually, but to actually even have everyone, more people actually benefit from it. So it's like, that's level 4. But eventually I actually saw that there's this level 5 status that Venerable Master Hsing Yun achieved, which is he is Buddhism and Buddhism is him. Like there is nothing different between him and Buddhism anymore. What? And this reminded me that, you know, all of us actually holds multiple identity. Like for example, I look like Asian, female. I mean, maybe not with this hair anymore, but and then, you know, I SFYAD President, but I'm also a LinkedIn employee, a designer. I'm a daughter of my mom. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a Singaporean. So all of these additional identities that we hold, this actually represents like if somebody else actually interact with me, maybe I'm the only Singaporean this person has ever interacted with, right? And then everything, whatever impression this person get from me will be that impression of Singaporeans that he'll get. Similarly, for Buddhism, right? For Buddhists, it will be like, oh, this is the only Buddhist I've ever met, and then that's the impression. So all of us actually carry the image of Buddhist, being a Buddhist, the responsibility of being a Buddhist, and the whole also responsibility of Buddhism because of our identity of being here. And I think when you start seeing that we all actually are Buddhism itself, that's when you will start like, I will feel like this part, the cultivation comes in like, the way I act will affect the way somebody actually sees Buddhism or whatever identity that I appear to look like. And the way I talk or the way I think will all influence everybody. And I just see this as a great potential because like this interaction can either go neutral or go really bad or go really good. And once I'm actually super mindful about this, that's when I can use what Katy was saying earlier, that if I am a good Buddhist, right? I am mindful about my words, I know the Dharma, I know Buddha's teaching, I'm able to incorporate in all of my actions, people will see and people will be curious. You do this thing because of this teaching. Similarly, when somebody is having difficulties, having the ability to actually bring up the teachings in a non-religious way, you do not label it, but just incorporate it into the conversation, is also another way to actually help each other. So this is how I see this like 5 levels of how of my takeaway from the chapter, which is to really summarize like what Buddhism depends on me means, which is don't differentiate actually, to just like I mean that's what I want to learn from Venerable Master Hsing Yun, to become like one as Buddhism, and then help to actually influence everybody that he can touch, every single person. Yeah.
So to summarize a little bit, to achieve Buddhism or me, there are actually 2 phases. The first one is, like Anna mentioned, you realize that you have a Buddha in your heart, and therefore you are doing every good actions to as an offering to the Buddha in your heart. And this is actually like more like planting a seed inside yourself. And as the cultivation grows, the leaves and the fruit come out. And the final fruit or the product is actually you yourself will become the Buddha. And therefore, every actions you react to others people is actually making an influence, not just to others, but also on the Buddhism. Or if you are not doing good, you are actually harming it. So this is what I learned personally. So I'm also like to or encourage you guys to, if you guys have any questions to our guest speakers today, to help you better understand how you could, of this book, or how you can practice the Buddhism knowledge from this chapter. Any questions?
Why pink color?
Because it is the image of your eye in red color. Because we are young, so a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, I asked you my question.
Yes.
So on the segment about cultivation, I guess my question would be for beginners. What would be a good way to start off on the path of cultivation?
I can answer, President. This personal opinion only. I think just pick one thing that you want to be mindful about, and then stick to it for a long time until you are absolutely. That is basically your practice. So, for example, you can be mindful about eating, and you pick only that, and then you just start with that and be extremely mindful about what you're eating, what's the ingredients, how many bites, and so on. And so once you start that, that is a very small practice. Your practice can be anything, like all the way from sitting meditation to a daily thing like eating, or to like when you talk to people, to be completely mindful about something. Just pick something. Like I want to know about everybody's mood, let's say, and then you pick that, and then just stick to that for as a homework for yourself, and then start seeing results around like, okay, it's because you're more mindful. And what about being mindful about all of these things has helped you in either your reflection about certain things that you wouldn't have actually noticed if you aren't mindful. And when you start seeing that, it becomes a habit, and you will naturally actually start translating these skill sets into other aspects of your life. But yeah, definitely just pick one to start with.
I think like Selene mentioned before, when I start to get serious about everything here, it's when I came to the Sambal Academy. So to me, like everyone maybe have a different way to get started. And for me, it's about when I start to know what Buddhism is about, when I actually spend time on the knowledge. And I remember that when I went to the Sambal Academy, like every class, I was like very busy taking notes. I was like, okay, every topic here, it can be very useful to my life if I can apply it properly. I feel like every topic is like a $1 million question. So I was very busy writing down notes, and then sometimes I would just look at the notes and think, okay, this is really good. Okay, that is good. And sometimes I would like clapping my hand like in my heart when Venerable Master was saying. Like there were some moments like that. So definitely to me, it's spending more time to learn what Buddhism is about and what's the value behind it and how to relate it to our daily life. And I also remember that in the first chapter, if you haven't read the book yet, Venerable Master Hsing Yun was mentioning he was like intentionally travel and visit different like masters or like teachers in Buddhism and seek out knowledge from them. Like I think he mentioned that he spent a lot of effort, and that's also a very good like habit when you first start out learning something, is to really talk to people and talk to people who have been in this area for a long time and then borrow their knowledge.
It turns out we all three speak, right? So one thing I want to add is, as you are taking the path of cultivating yourself, it's very easy to fall into the area where you feel like you know better than this, okay? because everyone has your own experience of handling things. If you do not go from full of yourself to, we were talking about the full cup and half cup or empty cup, right? If you always maintain yourself as a full cup, you can never acquire any knowledge from anyone, right? Only until you are truly emptying yourself and trying to learn from, like what Anna said, right? Learn from everyone as an empty cup. Then you can find the best way that will help you with your practice. Because there are so many ways you can cultivate yourself. Like Selene said, eating, being mindful is one thing, right? Talking to other people to get more knowledge. But I just wanna remind everyone that it's hard. It's actually very, very hard to keep your original thought of the reason why you think Buddhism is good for you. It's very hard, believe me. But to maintaining that is you have to constantly ask yourself, why do I want to become a Buddhist? Why do I want to learn Buddha's teaching? No matter which stage you're in, always ask yourself that question. So don't lose your original intentions of learning all the teachings.
So to have a great beginner's mind. Any other questions?
I have a question. So, Katy mentioned about that when you heard about Buddhism depends on me, you feel invincible. And also, Selene mentioned that knowing that Buddhism depends on me, or I'm probably the only Buddhist that other people know, and we want to set up a good role model so that people have a good impression or a good impression on Buddhism. So there comes responsibility, there comes pressure, right? So you feel invincible, and on the other side there's another pressure too. And not a lot of people will be, in your position, that have many opportunities to contribute, or maybe they just getting into Buddhism. And what kind of mentality or what kind of advice that you can give to those who are new to Buddhism and they now get in touch of the phrase Buddhism depends on me, and it feels a lot of pressure on them too, right? So what kind of advice do you want to give to those new Buddhists? Thank you.
So I think when I heard the phrase and I feel I'm invincible, it's because I have faith in Buddhism. I think it's very important in anything. Without faith, you cannot achieve any result out of it. So for newcomers who comes into temple or learning Buddhism, the thing I want to say is, don't be afraid of questioning, right? If you simply accept, do not question, at the end you will feel like, I do not even know what I'm doing. You will be lost. So it's okay to question, but then do not just question and without seeking out answers, right? Try to find out the answer for your question by asking a lot of people, or maybe talk to venerables. So for the person who just started, I would think it's very important to develop the faith, right? Before you develop that level of faith, it's very hard for people to do anything because they will feel like they're being pressured all the time. There's an expectation you have to meet, right? And even if you're giving a certain role, you will set yourself into a certain limit only because you believe this is what I can do at this stage, which is fine. Because everyone have their, they judge on their time, their schedule, and their ability to take on things. But do not think that you are only up to that limit. So to be open-minded is also important. You do not want to fall into the trap of things can only be done in one way, right? So I would say, question, but also seek for answer, right? and grow your faith for the newcomer. And eventually, when you have enough faith on what you're doing, what you believe in, and the other thing is, Venerable Hsing Yun also said that compassion gives you courage. If you have compassion for something, even though it is a danger, you will go for that. Think about, a mom, right? If she sees that her kids is in danger, even though it's in danger, probably a lot of people will not approach it, will not try to solve it, but the mom will throw herself into the fire or something just to get her kids out. That is a love and compassion for her kids. So compassion comes with courage. If you have compassion, then you will have infinite courage to do things. But you need to grow that through your faith towards Buddhism. I mean, that's how I will provide advice.
So for me, I think it would be actually a lot of what Katy has mentioned, which is the really, really important to be open-minded. Even more important is maintain that curiosity. And the curiosity and open-mindedness is actually two really important mindsets to always maintain, because let's say you have curiosity and then you keep asking questions, but the way you ask questions is more of like, oh, why are you doing this way? Like you kind of like already rejecting that those are not the questions. Those are actually things that you use your own perception to actually measure something. Where if you have open-mindedness, which is like, oh, I accept everything, but you don't have curiosity. So you'd be like, cool, interesting, but you never dive any deeper. So a combination of both will allow you to even like be okay to change your mindset. So a lot of what Katy has mentioned is very important. Now, what I would think is would be like curiosity and open-mindedness is the mindset towards learning Buddhism. But the other angle that I would actually advise would be to come to more of our events. Not to promote here, but but why would be going through events is really important, because at the beginning, in order for if you only start building your faith by understanding the Dharma, then it will take a long time. You will like your curiosity and open-mindedness and interest will lose pretty quickly. But if you come through events, through doing stuff, through action and interacting with people, you see Buddhism in action, of how people act and of the things that we discuss, of like the things we do, and then you observe everybody here. That's even a much better way to learn Buddhism than actually through, I'm actually saying knowledge is also very important. I just think this requires a lot of motivation from the newcomer. But coming to events is a lot less. Like it's easy to come hot pot, bouldering, right? It sounds really fun. But the organizers, in fact, it's really important for the organizers to design the events in a way that people can learn even though they're having fun. So I think that's actually a challenge for the organizer, and then for newcomers, like if anything, make time, come to our events, and then appreciate what you can actually take away from there, and slowly you might actually gain interest in learning the knowledge more, and then you start seeing them both hand in hand together. Which is what happened to Anna actually.
Thank you so much, everyone. So I hope you guys do enjoy these 90-minute sections on chapter 1. And thank you for the guest speakers for their amazing life experience sharing, as well as the advice. And of course, your times in participating in it and paying attention and engaging with us. So just as a reminder, we will have our second SFYAD book sharing forum on September 29th, starting 2:30 p.m. And we will have our Venerable Miao Zhong, Benson, as well as Vicky here as our guest for next sections. So please join us. And also, if you want to get the latest information about our events, please join our SFYAD group on Facebook, as well as visit our sfyad.org to subscribe to our emails. With that said, thank you so much, everyone. We're also grateful if you do have any feedback to us. Thank you.
Good photo.